Deep beneath the waves of Terraria's oceans exists great cyclopean ruins of Cthulhu's seat of power, the age-old city of Terraria. Their nature kept secret even in the height of Cthulhu's power, there is now only a single soul that knows about the existence of the ruins. A being that betrayed his own kind and the world itself to forge a deal with the heart of darkness, and still to this day roams the vacant halls of fallen Terraria, upholding the pact of servitude he is forever bound to. Gods had begun. Humanity had all players deep and challenging, different is less likely to get me horribly During the birth of Terraria, many varied creatures were created. A number of them become powerful custodians of the world, maintaining the existence of the very elements and the balance of nature. There were many more, however, that did not attain such grand status, but were content merely to exist, living in a paradise watched over by those worthy to do so. There were others still, though, that were not quite as content to simply exist. Creatures some would consider mistakes and unfit to live. Probably the best example of a creature such as this was the pig one, a subterranean mistake of evolution, part swine, part abomination of the graceful drakes, that coveted only the power of the custodians. Hordes of its kind would seek out elemental power wherever it could be found. Whether it be good or bad, the pig ones did not care. They merely desired a power that they could never begin to understand. Shunned by the surface world, the pig ones dwelt in obscurity until the crawling chaos arrived and spread corruption across the world. Unlike so many others that fell to the corruption's dark influence, the pig ones flourished, feeding from the great power their new god had brought. For an eon they lived as kings among the shattered ruins of civilization, growing large and powerful, but when their god waned, so did they. As the corruption retreated, so did the pig ones back underground, not having the mind to consider alternatives. That was all but one of them. This pig one loathed the idea of returning to the existence their legacy told them of, and believed that with the death of one god, another would rise. While his brethren returned to their caverns, becoming small and starved of power, this one pig one searched to the edges of the world, feeding off what remained of the Dark Lord's power. Finally, he came to a point where he could travel no further, the edge of a great expanse of water. Refusing with his entire heart to turn back, the pig one decided that he would give himself to the expanse, believing that if his new god existed, it would find him, and if it did not, then he would welcome death. Sinking into the depths, the pig one felt his power and life slipping away in equal measures. But then, against all odds, a titanic face rose up before him, one consisting of huge, piercing eyes and a mass of writhing tentacles. Cthulhu indeed had found him, sensing the pig one's great power leaking out into the water. Rather than end this being, Cthulhu challenged him to explain what was desired, why a creature of this world would seek out the Great Old One. The almost lifeless pig one expressed his desire to serve and to bask in the power of a god. The Great Old One would ensure that this strange creature would stay true to his word, and in that moment twisted its body, stretching its limbs into fins, tearing gills into its body, and declaring it a Duke of Cthulhu's great empire, Duke Fishron. As the life returned to him, Fishron felt a surge of power like he had never experienced. This was indeed the work of a god. But why? Why so readily give him the power? Before answering, Cthulhu left and descended back into the depths. Following, Fishron would soon see the truth for himself. The Great Old One had built a massive city on the seabed, a staging ground to take the rest of Terraria, but in the process he had all but exterminated the natural ocean life, including the original custodians. As a result, the ocean had become fierce, dangerous even for Cthulhu, laying waste to parts of Terraria. An ocean custodian was needed, and Fishron had become exactly that, a pillar of the world, controlled by a malevolent alien. But the power, it was all too intoxicating, and despite the pact having already been sealed, Fishron willingly chose to serve the great conqueror. In time, the Duke would bring forth others of his kind, allowing them limited power in exchange for their service to him, and soon Fishrons become a race of their own, finally obtaining the power and importance their ancestors had so lusted after. So well did the Fishrons do their task, and so powerful did they become unto themselves under the Duke, that it was barely even noticed when their god Cthulhu was defeated and Terraria crumbled into ruins. They were part of the world now, true custodians of Terraria. But no matter how they continued their actions to keep the elements in balance, their creation was always tainted by the touch of the eldritch horrors, by creatures from beyond the stars that desired only to conquer, and a race that would do anything to gain power, even betray their own world. While the fishrons dwelt in the deep oceans, the pigrons still exist beneath the surface of Terraria, much smaller than their seagoing counterparts, but still searching for any kind of power they could find. And with the release of the powers of light and night, there is now a veritable feast for them to gorge on. Forgotten and shunned by the surface dwellers, no one considers the threat of the pigrons. But maybe, with so much power up for grabs, the future belongs to these evolutionary mistakes, and they may once again stand as kings of Terraria, as they had so long ago.